Michel, welcome back. It's great to have you back again.
Hello.
We are going to talk today. We've been talking behind the scenes about toxic people. And I was really curious when you said that, I think we should just ignore them. I just want to hear more today about, your thinking behind about that.
Yes, I'm happy to answer that question. Maybe first we should define what it means, toxicity. That will help better understand when it is interesting
I
or it
was
might be
really
interesting
curious
to
when you said.
ignore it. You have an echo.
Oh no, it's just me. The live was on,
It's
so.
lives. Yeah. Well, let's first define what it means. When I hear the word toxicity, there are three things. There are places, people, and perceptions.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about how we perceive places, situations, and people. And we might be maybe we might need to make the difference between people and their behaviors as well, because that's two different things.
Yes.
So it's about perceptions. And so what is a toxic place? A toxic place is a place where values have no value. People perceived as toxic are people who do not value values.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about perceiving values. So which values, for example? The first one that pops up in my mind is, for example, respect. Respect for people, respect for feelings, respect for opinions.
Yeah.
Another one is, for example, generosity or altruism or integrity or caring,
Yeah.
caring for people, caring for situations, just care.
Yeah.
These are positive values. Negative values or values perceived as negative, for example, are being selfish, unfaithful,
Yeah.
false, disloyal.
Yeah.
And when we perceive these negative values, then that generates a feeling of bad intentions. We have that feeling that there might be bad intentions, negative intentions. And that makes us feel guilty or ashamed or manipulated.
Mm. And you don't trust, right? You're not
Sorry.
gonna.
And then,
And
yes, it harms our trust. It undermines totally the trust we can have in people or in organizations or in situations, or in ourselves, maybe as well. And toxicity occurs with destructive behaviors, with devaluation. And that devaluation might come with negative intentions or just the delivery mode, the clumsy communication that makes me think that the intention is negative. So it's about destructiveness. And there is self-destructive. I can be self-destructive. So I
yeah.
become toxic to myself. For example, if I smoke 20 cigarettes a day, that is a self-destructive behavior because it kills me. It will kill me in the end. Everybody knows that. And there is also being destructive with other people. And that means maybe not respecting the needs or the values of that person
Yeah.
or that group of people. So that is my way to define it, because it's a difficult one, defining toxicity in organizations, toxicity in relationships. And for me, there are two reasons to ignore it.
Go on, tell
Sometimes
me.
I feel totally overwhelmed by toxic situations, toxic people, because they can be everywhere. It might be in traffic when you drive your car, and you have all these selfish people not respecting others and not caring for others. For example, can be when you go shopping, it can be on a train or on a bus. There are sometimes situations that are just very toxic. And when I feel that, I have the this impression that my freedom is taken away, that nobody cares about my well-being. And I'm very sensitive to that. It really takes my energy away. It makes me very angry, very, very extremely angry. And it undermines my plans or my intentions, or it's on my way, somehow. So, in order to protect myself, actually, I often decide, and more, I'm able to do that more and more often. I decide to protect myself by just ignoring it. But before I come to that conclusion, my friend, you'd better ignore it. I ask myself a few questions. And I'm doing it almost unconsciously now, because I have these questions ready to be asked in my mind. And so the first question I ask myself is it really worth it?
Yes.
Worth it? That I put all my energy into that anger or into trying to do something. Is it worth it? The second question I ask myself is, can I change it? What can I do about it? When some people are just behaving in a way that is not respectful or very selfish when I drive my car, can I change it?
Yeah.
Maybe not, And then the last question I ask myself is, do I want to allow these people make me feel bad? Do I want them to win actually the game or not? And when the answer is no, then I decide just to ignore it. I move on. I try to forget it, because it's not worth it. I can't change it. And anyhow, I don't want these people to harm me. Full stop. So I ignore it consciously. So ignoring is, for me, a conscious strategy to protect myself in certain situations, of course. And yeah, that's how it works. And I do it more and more, actually.
It's interesting. So is it worth it? Can I change it? And do I want to let them win? And I think that, so you I had a different thought when I was coming to this, joining this, being part of this live with you. But it's true in a work context. Is it worth it? It's something that we've discussed, is that often people who are behaving in a way that's making you feel sick, we've discussed the fact they don't stay around very long. They move on. So is it really worth it? Are they actually around enough? Are they going to be there forever? That's going to make your life terrible. So I think that's really and is it really worth losing time over this? Can I change it? Yeah. And can I change it? I think is a really interesting one, which we'll kind of get to at the end, is, which things can you potentially change? And do I want to let them win? I think they're really interesting questions to ask. So that's brilliant. Because I was coming from the angle, Michel, that if you have the strength to ignore it, then I was wondering, do you not have the strength to actually address it? Because you clearly got some sort of emotional resilience to be able to even have that kind of question in the moment, to start thinking. So if you are already in the mindset, I don't know, I can take it, I can leave it, you probably could have you're kind of setting yourself up for having the right mindset to have a good conversation with that person.
Mm-hmm.
That, you could also, it's a take it or leave it conversation, once you've made that person feel safe, because it could be that person actually is very unaware that their behavior is impacting other people. And what's great is we've got some people throwing some questions in. We've got Donna and Desiree. So I can see you, and I will come to you in a sec. So so I was thinking that, if you're already in that mindset, you could actually have that conversation, because if you don't say anything, then you're endorsing that behavior, saying, listen, that's kind of okay around here. That's acceptable behavior. And then if which just is basically giving a red flag to other people to behave like that too. And then I also think that some people just aren't very comfortable having those kind of conversations. So if you could have it on behalf of other people, I actually think, and I've written a blog post about this, which I'll share afterwards. I really think it's like the 101 of leadership is if you're willing to make a stand on those certain values, that this isn't how we behave around here, and this behavior is unhelpful. I think that creates, people see that. People see you making a stand, and they will respect you, and it builds trust. It's like, well, that person, they are aligned with themselves. They've got values and they live by them. They don't just talk big and act small when it comes to it. But yeah, so what about, so I talked about the reasons why I think you should, because maybe they don't know, or you're endorsing it. What do you think? I'm wondering, when it comes to a peer, if a peer is acting in toxic behavior, I personally think you need to address it. However, I've been speaking to people this week, and if it's your boss, I think we go back to some of the things you said at the beginning, which we need to really understand. Is he really, or is she really, her whole personality completely, is she actually a psychopath of some sort, which there's very few of them in the world? Is all behavior terrible, or is it actually just one specific thing that you could have a conversation about? But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that there's a difference? Is it, you talked at the beginning about, what did you say? You said perception. You need to define the situation.
Yeah. So it's first, it's a perception. You don't know. You have to find out. And then I really fully agree with you. In order to find out if it's a perception or if it is the truth, it is good to have that conversation. So let me give you an idea of how I would address that. If I decide that I can make a change, it's worth it, and I want to engage more to improve the relationship.
Yeah.
So the recommendation I would make is a very simple 4-step approach. So first, I would ignore it for a while.
Okay.
Just to not be overwhelmed by it, just to step back a bit, try to ignore it for a while. And that would give me the time to think about the value that is transgressed, or that was transgressed by that person. For example, it could be respect for opinions, respect for my feelings, whatever, respect.
Yeah.
And once I have defined which value actually is behind it and makes me feel bad, then I would try to find out how I really feel about it. What is that feeling? I might feel insulted or invisible, things like that.
Okay.
So I write it down, and I think about it. Is it really that? So I challenge it a bit. And then I would ask that person for a conversation, just to clarify something. I would either make an appointment or go for a coffee, whatever. But I would address it, and then I would express why that value, for example, like respect, is important to me, what it means to me, and how the other person made me feel at some point. I would just speak about myself, my own feeling. And then I would ask the person to clarify the intention, the initial intention. What was your intention? And then, you will see if the intention was wrong or right.
Yeah.
But by doing that, probably I will give a clear signal that I don't accept my values to be transgressed or ignored.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a way of speaking up, actually.
Yeah.
And no one can blame you for speaking about values. Nobody can blame you for expressing how you feel about something, because that's personal. And nobody can blame you for asking to clarify the intention.
Yeah.
This is non-violent communication, actually.
Yeah.
It's a good way to help these people be more conscious about what they trigger, the feelings they trigger, the consequences of their behavior or attitudes.
Okay. Okay. I think that's a really nice way of doing it. I would add to that. And this goes back to the first conversation we had on LinkedIn Live with Alicia. And she talked about this intercultural coach and trainer. And she was talking about trying to be curious about people's values, drivers, and and I would just add to what Alicia would have said, which is it's this really doing what you did, being curious, having a guess at what emotions the other person might be feeling. And if you're not sure, there's loads of lists online, because emotions of feeling good or bad really aren't emotions. So really identify what that emotion the other person might be also feeling, and what needs are they trying to get met. So in their frustration or in their attack of you, or what are they needing? Is it order? Is it speed? Is it respect? There's quite a handful of needs. And I found that when I do this, when I'm in a conflict with somebody, it softens my frustration and anger. I'm like, oh, okay, well, no wonder we don't see eye to eye, because actually what I was needing was time or space, and they were needing efficiency. So no wonder we were having this conflict. So in fact, it's not that he or she is toxic, because I don't even like the idea that we call somebody toxic. It's something that they're doing is toxic to me in a way, is making me feel sick. And so that's that curiosity. And then with that conversation that you talked about, what I would potentially say is, look, I'm guessing that you're needing speed or order. And what I was needing was a bit more time, a bit of space, a bit of creativity. And I realized that they're kind of conflicting needs. So how can we get both our needs met? So, and then listen, I need this and you need that. I'd love to find a way to get both our needs met, and then allow that space for coming up with ideas. There is always more than one way to get these things. But I think having that conversation, and what is amazing with that, again, it's nonviolent communication, but literally verbalizing to the other person what you think they're feeling, and then allow to be standard correct, let them correct you. It takes away the pressure, because suddenly they go, oh my God, finally this person understands me. So that's the second thing that I would add to your thing. It's guessing, verbalizing that in a meeting, and then seeing how they can get both needs met. That kind of negotiation.
Yeah. Yes, it's about understanding each other and meeting mutual needs.
Yeah.
That would be the optimal conversation to deal with it.
Yeah.
We've been speaking about people. I'd also like to speak about organizations, because sometimes it's not the people who are toxic, but the organization is functioning in a way that is not the way we would like it to function. And I've observed many toxic cultures in different companies around the world. And at some point, I think it also can be ignored rather than addressed by those who suffer from it. Let me give you an example. When I observe toxic environments, there is a pattern. Do you know the Karpman triangle? The Karpman triangle, which is the conflict where we have a persecutor, we have a victim, and we have a rescuer.
Oh, I call it the drama triangle.
The drama triangle, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
And so the persecutor is the toxic person, of course. And then we have got the victim, who is being aggressed by the persecutor. And we have the rescuer, who wants to save the victim. And it's called the drama triangle because it never ends. It's a never-ending story. And these people, toxic environments attract toxic people. The more toxic a company is, the more toxic people it attracts. Why? Because the persecutors, they feel like free to be toxic or to behave in a way that is toxic. Victims, at some point, I've coached many of them, and at some point when they come to the option they get to either ignore it or do something about it or feel sorry for themselves or address it, they wouldn't address it.
Yeah.
Why? Because they feel there is something in it for them. Because once they can feel sorry for themselves, they don't need to take responsibility for
That's
their
right.
own happiness
That's right.
and their own values. And then they are allowed, entitled to disengage because they're not
That's right.
alone. There are many other people who are in the same situation. And then it's comfortable to disengage,
Yeah.
but there is something in it for them. They prefer to complain, actually, to complain mode and to play that victim role.
You're right.
And because they have options, but they don't take them. And then for the rescuers, they also love these toxic environments because once they start rescuing the victims, they get a lot of recognition. That's why they do that. So the three of them, the persecutors, the victims, and the rescuers, they don't want it to change
That's right.
because that's their behavior, their recurring functioning. And when I see that, you know, but because I've been in these types of organizations as well, and then at some point, I'm thinking, okay, this is not my problem. It's their problem. I leave it to them. I move on, or I do my job. I will ignore it because what can I do about it? You know, it's not my role to educate everybody and to intervene and to coach them or whatever. When you're just a coworker, you're not entitled to do that. So that's another situation where toxicity can be ignored because you can't do anything about it anyway.
Right.
But then, of
Right.
course, we do have solutions. As a coaching and training company, as consultants, we know how to change cultures as well in organizations in a very efficient way.
Yes, because what I'm hearing there is a systemic problem within the organization, and that needs to be, that needs to go. If you want to have a thriving organization, if you're in a situation where you're ignoring stuff, then, that for me, this is a real shame because people are just surviving. And
Mhm.
yeah, so, and yeah, I guess that is what we have been doing over the years. And yeah, and it takes a lot. It's not a quick fix though, is it?
It's not. It takes time. It takes time, and it takes the full engagement of the management teams.
That's right.
But sometimes, they want really to address it and they want to create a better place. They want to improve their working culture, and they're really on it. And then it's a question of time. With different workshops, we can really fix it. We can
Yeah.
really fix it. And the only way to do it is to let people work and speak about their values and how they want to
Yeah.
live them. Just connecting them through values is often enough to fix it.
Well, we
Because
had this
then it's not
conversation with
unspoken
Nahid.
anymore. Sorry?
Sorry, I interrupted you, but I was just saying we had that conversation with Nahid as well.
Yeah.
I think what I'll do is I'll put into the chat afterwards some links to some of the older
Mhm.
lives we had, because it's exactly that. It's these. Yeah, it's it's hard. It's not a quick fix, but I think the other thing is it's not these things aren't new or complicated. They just, but for some reason they just don't get, excuse the pun, they just don't get valued. The basic stuff of values of this is how we behave around here. This is what we sign up for. This is what we don't sign up for. We're going to deal with it. It's just standard practice. But it's quite surprising how it just it just gets ignored, or it's too overwhelming for leaders to deal with.
Mm-hmm. The other day you asked me, why do organizations tolerate toxic people or a
Yeah.
toxic working culture? And I've been
Yeah.
thinking about that as well. I think that one reason is the lack of awareness. They might not be that aware of it. Things
Mm.
happen and, they're busy and they don't really see it. A second reason why it's not addressed is often the
Yeah.
fear of speaking to those people and doing something. And third reason is that organizations might feel a bit lost, or the management might feel lost or helpless. They don't know how to fix it. Even though they want to fix it, they don't know how. They've never seen such a plan before to address
Yeah.
it. But there are solutions, of course, and we said it takes some time, but it doesn't take ages. It's a question of a few months to make that turnaround.
Yeah.
And once that is done, magic happens. Everything changes. People
Oh,
start believing again in their organization. They start smiling again. They start working hard and being engaged and motivated. It's such a change once we connect people through their values.
yeah. And I think I would just add to that, and giving people the language of how to speak to each other when it isn't acceptable behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I think that giving people permission, setting the rules that you actually hold each other to account. It shouldn't be that the boss holds everyone to account. It should be that we
Mm-hmm.
hold each other. And that, I know, is a very, very uncomfortable conversation. And so the sooner that can be instilled in an organization, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, we're just about coming. We've got
Just one
3
more thing
minutes
here,
left.
if I may.
You got one more thing? Yeah, no, go for it.
You used the magic word. You said giving permission, and if organizations do that, if they give their employees and people the permission to live their values, then they can take ownership of it.
Yeah.
But if the permission is not there, they won't take the ownership, because they might think, okay, am I entitled to address this? But if it comes from the top, and really people know, now I have the permission to speak about values and how we want to live them, that's the beginning of the solution.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a big one, permission. I love it. Michel, we have just about hit 30 minutes and we don't want to abuse people's time. So I just wanted to wrap by saying I see people who've given some ideas or comments, and that's fantastic. I'm personally really interested in hearing about other people's situations that have been in which there's been unhelpful behavior. So if you have one that you want to share with me privately, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Why am I asking? Is because I actually want to put together I don't know, what would you call it, content that would help people address it in different situations. But I'm also interested in doing the research to begin with. So that's my reach out to anybody. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn and share your story. I'm there. I'm interested. I'd like to hear, and I'd also like to help. Michel, was there anything that you would like to add?
I'm also happy to have a conversation with those people who want to learn more about how can we address cultures or situations in organizations, and how can we improve that. We're happy to connect and to give you information about that, to
Absolutely.
give you tips and tricks you can do without any help from the outside. There are indeed a few things we can share for free.
Yeah, and I think just thinking back, because it's kind of been, I was coming here with a much more sort of open mind. I didn't really have an agenda for this session, and what really stands out to me from this conversation is, it's not one solution necessarily fits all. I think, and particularly maybe reach out to us if you need a bit of a step back to see what strategy, because of your situation, because of who you are, might work for you. So because a conversation on values is a big one, but maybe it's not appropriate in your situation. So we are here if you need some help. That's it for today. We have a live coming up in another month's time. It's on the 25th of March. And it's a to be confirmed, but I think it's going to be about presentation skills. So fingers crossed. Michel,
Cool.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today. And really, I really have appreciated this question because I've actually been thinking about it a huge amount. I've been talking to lots of people, and yeah, but I think it's a really important one. So thank you.
Thank you, Helen, for having me. My pleasure. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.